This is the Ask Falaschini podcast, where the modern economy is discussed from a skeptic's perspective. Mr. Falaschini helps you distinguish what is sustainable in our economy and what isn't. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not all mud is dirty. The podcaster Mr. Falaschini provides no-nonsense advice. He had it all, lost it all, went bankrupt multiple times, and is now attempting to come back from zero with sustainable growth. There are numerous coaches and preachers on the internet that preach about positive thinking and how life is all roses if you just care to see it that way. Well, Mr. Falaschini is definitely not one of them. We recommend you ask Falaschini to keep it real. He discusses the darker side of the current economic reality, the side that's more important for your personal and business finance. His first intention is to help you keep what you already have. Not to be a complete party pooper, Mr. Falaschini will also hint at the earning opportunities in the economy today. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please like, share, and subscribe. And now it's time to start taking notes. The mic goes to the podcaster, the one and only Mr. Falaschini.
Welcome to the Ask Falaschini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Mats Larsson from Sweden. He's a second-time guest on our podcast, and that is because Mats has written a new book, a book called The Severe Economic and Social Consequences of the Rapid Change to Electric Vehicles. Mats, please tell us more about the consequences of the rapid change to electric vehicles.
Yes, thank you, Peter. The change to electric vehicles has barely been prepared so far. Preparations have not yet started on a large scale because the complexity, there is a tremendous amount of complexity here where it's not only about changing vehicles to electric, it's about expanding power generation, power grids, and charging infrastructure. And it's also about training a lot of people who will need to participate and drive this change forward. So there are a number of different areas that need to be taken into account to plan and prepare for the change. So, and these preparations, as I said, have not yet started, not even in the EU, where decisions have been made both to ban the sales of petrol and diesel cars from 2035, and also more recently to phase out very rapidly diesel trucks from 2030 through 2035 and 2040. So the investments will have to be made in all places, in all local areas, in power grids, in charging infrastructure, and in all countries in terms of expansion of power generation. And this will need a huge amount of resources in terms of people who know how to build these systems, how to structure them, electromobility strategists, as I call them, electromobility architects, and those are barely present at, right now.
Yeah, can I just interrupt you? Would you say, you're hinting at it, but you did not say it out loud, would you say that the legislator got ahead of themselves by imposing such a strict rules like banning the diesel trucks by 2040 and similar? Is it possible that this is just a trend and that there's going to be the opposite trend in the near future when the diesel trucks will come back and where things will not be right now everything is electricity or nothing? Do you think that there's going to be a more, let's say, Toyota's approach towards mobility when they say, okay, we can build one electric car, or we can build 6 plug-in hybrid cars, or we can build 90 just mild hybrid cars? Do you think that legislator will start to follow this, let's say, Toyota's narrative more than right now they are following almost fully the Tesla narrative. Everything has to be electric. What's your take on that?
Well, this is one of the more worrying aspects, or one of the most worrying aspects, because decisions have been made and the EU has legislated that these changes will have to go through. And automotive companies are preparing for this large-scale change. They are starting to dismantle production of petrol and diesel cars and diesel trucks. So they are starting to prepare, but we will find out at some point that we can't go forward at this rapid pace. And the worry I have is that there will not be enough resources to go back or continue to produce petrol and diesel vehicles on a sufficiently large scale to maintain transportation systems. If the automotive industry starts to move very rapidly towards electric cars, they will build up the supply chains and the production resources needed to make those, and they will dismantle the ones that produce petrol and diesel vehicles. So my worry is that yes, we will find out, the legislators will eventually find out that we can't drive this development at the pace intended, but the most worrying aspect is that the automotive industry and the suppliers and so on are forging ahead and making decisions and dismantling very important and very valuable industrial structures that will be very costly and probably almost impossible to rebuild once they have been dismantled, as we see in some industries where supply chains have been broken down. We can't easily once more and rapidly bring up and increase production. So this is a really important and very difficult aspect to handle. Legislators need to very rapidly explore and analyze the amount or the pace that this realistic pace for this change, and they need to decide about a timetable that is realistic rather than the present one that's unrealistic and that can't be gone through with.
I would like to address another issue that you already mentioned in the beginning. There's a huge lack of people that you call electric mobility architects. And there's a huge lack of different experts because we know that the, let's say, internal combustion car industry has been built over a century. And there is enough trained mechanics, there is enough support services, there is enough financial services, all the not so much the infrastructure, but the whole ecosystem has been built over a century. And now there was this illusion that you can use the same ecosystem and go from internal combustion engine to electric engine. However, there are a lot of despite a lot of similarities, there is even more things that have changed and that are completely different, and that they demand completely different knowledge. And we know that to educate certain person, okay, you have these so-called over weekend education programs that are really popular now. However, for all the strategic functions, there's up to 20 years of training required. For example, you're an expert, but you have over 30 years of experience as a business and management consultant. And that is not something that you could do over a weekend. So the biggest challenge is where do countries and continents find all these experts, or how long will it take to educate them? And plus, you need a first-hand experience on the field, not just going to attend a university program. So What would you think would be realistic time to switch to electric mobility if we take the lack of the human resources in consideration, and let's focus on US and EU? What time how long would it take that this transition would have the ability to become sustainable transition, not something that has to be done overnight despite of all the consequences and the costs? You already mentioned that because of all the legislatory pressure, companies are already starting dismounting the facilities with internal combustion engines. So what's your realistic take if we focus solely on people, so human resources required to execute this change?
Yes, thank you, Peter. I really appreciate your insight into this, and you've described correctly, I think, the background. I think it'll take a considerable amount of time. Of course, I have 30 years background as a business strategist and a change manager, but people don't need to work for 30 years to learn about these things, fortunately. But I've managed over the past year or so to get companies, training companies in Sweden started on applying for financing for vocational training programs of 2 years, and that's for electromobility strategists and electromobility architects. So, but these government funded programs, they will apply. These companies will apply for them towards the summer this year, and they may start then to train people in the autumn of 2025, and they will then and the programs will then be of a duration of 2 years, and those will not be university programs, but vocationally more practical trainings, and these roles as electromobility strategists and electromobility architects, they barely exist today. Some people have acquired the knowledge because they have worked with electromobility in various automotive companies, utilities, but they haven't. Most of them haven't looked at the complexity and haven't realized the complexity of large-scale change. They have learned about how to develop engines and how to develop power grids and so on. But very few people have an overall view, a holistic view of all the changes that need to be made, and how these changes will interact with each other and influence each other. So how will the need to expand power grids influence the need to train people to do this, and how will the need to expand power grids influence our ability to or the timing of the expansion of charging infrastructure, for example, and how do we need to adjust our pace of implementing or changing the vehicle systems, the vehicle fleets in to fit the pace of the expansion of the charging infrastructure, etc. This type of knowledge and this type of understanding will be necessary for the people who will be electromobility experts. And say from now on, we're looking at in Sweden where this is actually underway. We don't know if these companies that apply for these trainings will get financing in the first year. They may have to apply once or twice or even 3 times until they get started. But once they get started, there will be a training course for 2 years. So the first students from these trainings may be ready by 2028 or something like that. So and those for each class, there will be perhaps 30 students with various specialization and so on. So, but there will be a need for thousands of these people in each country, because they will be needed in very different industries, in different companies, and also in different local and local regions, to be able to make decisions there about the development. And of course, during this time, people will learn on the job as well. So it's not as if these training courses will be the only source, but it illustrates one aspect of this knowledge development, and that hasn't even been started in most other countries. We've been running a project with German professors, Polish professors, and I've been looking a little at other countries as well. And Sweden is ahead because we have one of the largest penetrations of electric vehicles, electric cars, and electric trucks at present in the EU and in the world, in fact, after Norway, Iceland. But we still don't have enough competence in terms of strategists and architects, and a lot of technology specialists that will be needed to run this forward.
I thank you for all these insights. I have another politically incorrect question right now. You mentioned all the knowledge and everything, but when you're talking about the social consequence, one is that there's going to need to be a different structure of knowledge in the society. Just a quick view I would like to get from you is, do you believe that electric vehicle will also change the so-called social structure of our society? Will there need to be change in our government structures? Will there need to be change in our voting structures because the energy will become so much more important because there's going to be a different knowledge will be gaining importance than now, because now most money is made in the financial industry. But this could soon change if we undergo all these so-called technical challenges. What do you think will happen with our society? Will there be a different democracy? How will we structure it?
That's very interesting. I don't think that we need to restructure democracy, because in Sweden and most countries we already have an energy minister who's responsible for energy issues. We do have politicians that work with these things, but we need to, of course, the importance of these roles will need to increase immensely, and the administration that's connected to the energy ministry will have to increase as well.
Okay, so another provocation. There is a mandatory kill-off switch in the cars already, and because they're electric, you can stop them immediately. So don't you think that the people that are now in power will get even more power, and power will be more centralized, and there will be huge challenges how to regulate the misuse of power? Don't you think we will lose
Yes.
a lot of human rights?
Yes, I've been discussing a lot with a professor who's an expert in the electricity supply in Sweden, and we've discussed and we found that at present there are no opportunities in democracies to actually control the use of electricity in detail. Technically, I believe there are opportunities, but there would have to be legislation, a new type of legislation to make this possible on a large scale, at least as far as I understand. And when when electricity demand increases, there is no way to prioritize different users. We have two big steel plants in the north of Sweden that will use a lot of electricity because they will be converted to hydrogen. They will be hydrogen powered in the near future, and they will need 30% of Sweden's electricity. In addition to this, we have increasing demand from other areas as well, and we will have to we will see electric car fleets, electric truck fleets increase dramatically. But there's no opportunity at present to prioritize the various needs. So all users are likely to experience higher prices and also shortfalls of electricity in at some points and at increasing frequency of shortfalls and increasingly high prices, and this will be difficult to manage in a structured way, so that because the investors in these steel plants have invested a lot of money, and the people who have bought electric cars, etc., they expect to be able to use electricity and to be able to charge them. So it will create an enormous strain on the power supply and also on the political system in various ways to control these things.
Okay, I will give another provocation out. The biggest challenge right now that we face is that a lot of the resources connected with internal combustion cars and infrastructure to run them is already paid off. And now we're going into a new economic cycle where we have to finance everything again, even if the existing infrastructure is working and it's already paid off. We are now forced by legislation to go into debt just to survive and adapt to the legislation. What's your take on that? I don't like it. I'm a conservative businessman. I would like to drive my car another 50 years if possible in order to pay the least amount for the maintenance and all this stuff. And now I have to buy an electric car because else I cannot drive in the city, and similar, especially in Germany, there is more and more bans for old cars, except if you have an old timer, then you can go in the city. But with an old car with the Euro 3 or something like that norms, you're not even able to go in the city anymore. So you have to park outside and take a train or a subway to the city. And this all, so that, for me, for example, that is cut down on my liberties, because I used to go to the city center with a car, and my car is paid off. And if I want to buy a new car, I have to save money. So I have to lower my savings, or I have to go into debt in order to get a new car that is correspondent to all these new politics. So how will this negatively affect the economy? Is there, because everyone is talking that if we spend more money, that is better for GDP and all this stuff. But for me as an individual, if I have a paid off car and I have to buy a new one and I have to assume debt for that, that is worse for me. So where do you see, where's the trade-off? What will I get as a return to renounce my, let's say, savings for a new car?
Yes. Economists sometimes refer to this notion that increasing investments will drive economic growth as the broken window fallacy, because it's tantamount to saying that if you break your window at home, you will increase economic growth and so on by having to repair anew. But there are a lot of negative aspects of having to repair and having to build new systems. So it's not only, it does drive economic growth to a certain extent. But to build up these huge systems that will be needed for power supply, power distribution, and charging will require very large investments. And as you say, it's not easy for individuals either to simply buy an electric car overnight and abandon or trade in their petrol or diesel truck or petrol or diesel car instead, and invest in an entirely new vehicle just because legislators have decided they must. So there, I'm only one person, and I've tried to draw up an holistic view of this development and indicate some areas where we will find that it will be challenging for both for people and for the global economy at large and for national economies. But I haven't been able to dig into detail in every one of these areas. So the question you are asking is only indicating that in your case, your car and your ability to drive and your ability to use your car and the cost of investing in a new car, these big decisions will interfere with your private finances and your ability to lead your life as you're used to. And there are a number of different areas which we have been discussing in this podcast where we need to make similar analyses, like power generation, power grids, or not only one power grid, it's power grids all over and different levels from local to regional and national. There's charging infrastructure, vehicle fleets, and training programs, and all of these have to be built up almost, let's not say from scratch, but from a very low level. And that will require huge investments, both for individuals who have to retrain or retrain for jobs in new areas, for governments, but also for companies that need to invest in these technologies. And it will take decades for this for people and for companies and governments to be able to adjust to these new requirements.
Thank you very much for all these insights. Looking forward to reading the whole book in the near future. And I will share links to your newest book, where you address all the topics that we have discussed in this podcast. And thank you very much for being my guest tonight.
Thank you very much, Peter. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Faleschini, for this outstanding podcast. And thank you for listening to the Ask Faleschini podcast until the end. Mr. Faleschini would love to hear your feedback in the comments. And don't forget, if you want to know, ask Faleschini or listen to the Ask Faleschini podcast. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.